Yo, hey, hi. This is a companion piece to the previous video I did about the ring, which was more of a video essay discussing everything you need to know about the themes and why it's still relevant in 2024. If you have a sec, love for you to check it out. But this is kind of like unrelated, is and isn't unrelated. But I would describe this as like if I was a bigger YouTuber, this would be like second channel content or like Patreon content, where I just break down how I did the look that I used in that video. So this is a DaVinci Resolve Power Grade tutorial. If you are uninterested in that, no hard feelings. Enjoy. Have a great day. If you are interested in it, I have two versions. So one, I will walk through the R709 kind of like simple version. And then there's also the ASUS CCT version that I did. This is 100% inspired by watching Ariel's photochemical DIY version. I use the principles in the ASC article that he found to create the digital version of how everything would operate physically or photochemically. I just did it digitally. That'll make a little bit more sense when we jump into DaVinci Resolve. Please like and subscribe if this helps you out at all. Enjoy the download, and back to computer me from 10 minutes ago. All right, let's jump into this. So what we're looking at here is actually two programs. We have DaVinci Resolve here. This is the main window. But then we also have over here, Nobe Omnisope. That is a paid plugin that is actually pretty pricey. Unless you're doing a lot of work coloring external to YouTube, you do not need this. If you are interested in learning more about it, I do have it linked down below. But again, it is unnecessary. But for this, it is a very helpful tool, so that I'll be able to show you the false color here, because that is an easy way to break down images that you are trying to recreate. And you can see just how they are processed from A to Z. Okay, cool. So let's take a look, and let's look at the first JPEG I have here. This is from ShotDeck, so it's a high quality pull. It's not just something that I did off of like a screen grab. This is from ShotDeck, which shout out ShotDeck, I guess. This is what I think people think the ring looks like. This extremely green, kind of nasty looking, tungsteny yellow, green, muddy look. It actually isn't really this. This is one of the few looks that the ring has. This is what I would describe as the tungsten look. They do this a few times, largely at the beginning, the funeral scene, the parent-teacher conference scene here, and then, of course, in the beginning here, where it's only used where the motivation for what the light source would be assumed to be tungsten. That you can see here, that would be a tungsten light, especially in 2002. But once you move out of that and you move into the scenes where it's supposed to be lit from, darkness, this is kind of like a moody night scene. The skin tones completely change and the coloring completely changes. And it goes from that very strong green where it's heading right here in the greens. You can see my cursor highlighting that it just goes straight green. But what I would actually say is the majority of the ring is actually cyan. This is much more of a color profile, the color wash, if you will, that you see throughout the entirety of the movie. This is far more common. And if I go down and show you here, that is a very typical vector scope for the ring. And what you can see in the false color is that a lot of this detail is just going almost completely black. There's just no, if you see the purple, that means it is crushed black information. Let's look at what I did to try and recreate the ring look. And like I said, I was very inspired by watching Ariel's video where he tried to recreate it in a traditional photochemical manner. This is my digital version of his photochemical process, if that makes any sense. So I tried to do it as step by step how it would have happened if you did it within the real world. So let's look at it. Right off the bat, you're probably wondering why it looks a little funky. And that's because I don't have my color space transform activated yet. So I need to activate that, and then boom. And then we have a proper looking image. Now what's going on here? So I needed to take my red raw footage and convert it into Cineon film log so that it would properly work with this 2383 film print emulation LUT. This is what DaVinci Resolve provides you for free. It's built into the DaVinci Resolve program. Basically, it was created when the workflow was, let's record with film, let's capture the image on film, let's scan that negative and bring it in to do a digital intermediate, and then it is going to be printed back onto film for distribution. This 2383 LUT was created so that when you were grading, you would understand what it would look like on a film print. That's why it's the film print emulation LUT. I don't know if that's helpful or necessary to know, but that is why it is expecting the Cineon color space. So now that it's in Cineon and we have our film print emulation LUT activated, we can actually start diving into what is creating this ring look. So an important note to this workflow is that the power grade is going to be expecting 3200 Kelvin. So make sure you set your camera to the color temp of 3200. Otherwise, it's going to do some weird things. Like let's go, since this is red raw, I can kind of like place it. Like that's you're going a little crazy there, my guy. So just in case you are working with footage that was already shot, I do have a daylight to tungsten node here that will take you down and put you more into where you're supposed to be. It is just a simple temperature move. So that's it. That's all you're doing is adjusting the temperature. But it does get you more in the way. I mean, it's not perfect. And that is why y'all need to be shooting at 3200 Kelvin. And then you'll be looking right. And so let's turn that off. And all right, next up is the most important thing. And this is where I did the DIY photochemical in digital. So let's take a look at the filtration. I have them all turned off, but you're going to see how they kind of stack together to create the ring look. So first up is this 81EF. That is the warming filter that they used on set. Now I have this, now I just built this as a simple primary adjustment that just, takes your image and warms it up and pushes it over. It is by subtracting blue, we are adding yellow and we are adding some cyan. Let me do one more. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. And the next step is we have our filtration. So we have a full green, which is a little wild, that they did not. So they used this green one on exterior shots, but then they created this half green filtration for close-ups with actors. And you can see that. Like, let's look at this one. I mean, that's pretty much within the world versus this craziness. So let's continue with that. So just a note, I created these in a subtractive manner. So that means instead of adding green, I am subtracting magenta. It is listed here. You can see that it is a -7 magenta. Now, that will have the effect of darkening your image. And if you are struggling to get exposure to where you need it to be, you can come in here to composite mode and add it to color. And that's going to add the color, but it's not going to affect your exposure. Now, I exposed this with the expectation of having it, but just so you know, if your image is a little dark, just come in here and you can adjust it to color. And it'll give you a little extra exposure. Next is the -1 pull. Now we are to our correctors. So this is linear gain. This is going to photometrically darken your image. So this is as if you were using your iris and it's just darkening it the exact same way your iris would. Next, you can do whatever you need to do here. If you need to add contrast, something like that, do a little punchy, do whatever you need with the adjust and contrast. Then I have 2 mattes that you can do. I currently am using that for this, where I'm just pushing my TV more cyan. This is an HSV deset. So if you need to desaturate your image, all you need to do is come into gain and gain alone. And you're just going to twist it up and you're going to twist it down. That's going to do subtractive saturation. Dial in where you need it. It's going to darken your image. And to do that, you come into color space, you go to HSV, and then channels, you knock off channel 1 and channel 2. And that's what's going to do it. Now we have our LUT that we kind of previously talked about, but you can see here, I have my gain set to 0.87 on my key. Why? Well, let's look at this image. And you can see here on the false color that the black levels go way deep. They go all the way down until there's barely information. Well, if we go to here and we bring this key back up and we try to do the same. Let's just contrast the living hell out of it. No. Okay, let's go to lift. No. So with this current LUT, the lowest you can take your black levels is still much higher than what the ring set theirs to. So to be able to do that, I opened up that LUT a little bit, but let's take this back to 0.87. And now, when you add in some contrast, you can take it to that level. You can make it as dark as you need, and it will dig deeper into the black levels. So that's kind of the workflow. The workflow is you take it and you put it into Cineon. If you have daylight footage, you can move it to tungsten. So this is quote unquote your on-set filtration, which is going to give you that green, that famous green. This is going to darken your image by 1 stop. And now what's printer? So let's take a look at this. So this is where I would do your color adjustments. If you need to bring it in and make it a little bit more, let's say something like that. Maybe we want it a little extra green, or maybe we want it a little bit more cyan, something like this. Ooh, that gives it a much more little inside, a little bit more magenta of a look. Adds some blue back to the image. So basically, this is where you can color correct, and you can kind of dial in to where you want your image specifically. If you want to play by the rules, you can do it by printer lights. I found the best is just doing some negative yellow. You can just subtract out some yellow, and that, I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. Look at that bad boy. Maybe I can open back up the shadows because I do have those pretty crushed. So something like that. I don't know. And then maybe we can bring my skin tones down a little bit. Because that's one of the things is how dark this movie is. Like, look at this. This is a bright image in the ring. And the brightest thing that you see is this little ping here. And that means that's at skin tone, which is about 55 IRE. So it's right in the middle of your exposure chart. And then this green is middle gray exposure. So very dark movie, very, very dark movie. And a lot of times your exposure is going to be like, let's look at this. Hold on. Let me see how far I can let's do it by gain. Wow. I mean, that is to get any green, to get to middle gray, I have to push it to 2 and gain. Wow. Wow. Dark. So just remember that when you're looking at your skin tones and your exposure levels. So we can get rid of Omnisope now. We don't need that anymore. And we can look at the last node here. And this is just 200T film grain. This is using the built-in DaVinci Resolve film grain. Honestly, it's pretty much just the 35mm 200T, but I actually increased the grain strength just a little bit and the grain size just a little bit. Don't use those measurements. That was just clicking. And that's just because YouTube really just destroys any grain that you place into an image. Its compression is just pretty intense. So yeah, that's the Rec. 709 pipeline for how I did this power grade. I'm going to be releasing this power grade because this is all built into Resolve, and everything here is quote unquote free with Resolve. I think the only thing that might be within Studio only is this film grain. I'm not exactly sure. But there's a lot of also resources where you can download film grain, and there's a lot of other workarounds. But everything here is free within DaVinci Resolve. But if you want a little bit more of a advanced workflow, I did actually do this in a node-based ASUS CCT pipeline that I'm happy to share. I'm not going to release it because A, I use plugins. B, there's also DCTLs that are not mine to release within a power grade. But if you want to rebuild it yourself, I'm happy to share how I did it step by step. So let's go into Lightbox, and I'm going to go from this example one over to what I actually did here. Let's do one where I don't look insane. Let's start on this one. Yay, I look a little intense. So if you look here on the clip level, it's roughly the same build. The only difference is that my filtration is no longer in a compound node. That's just for my own ease. There's literally no change by having it here instead of the compound node. So yeah, we can get into this a little bit more in just a second, but let me show you the pre-clip, post-clip workflow first, because that's the most important part. So in the group pre-clip, we have Filmconvert going into the ASUS IDT transform. That's ADX10. That is what is recommended by Filmconvert. From my understanding, ADX10 is basically a updated Cineon curve. Like, it's based on that Cineon curve, but it's more targeted towards an ASUS pipeline. That may be incorrect, but that's my understanding, and that's why Filmconvert recommends it. So let's look at why I did Filmconvert. So let's go ahead and drop that on its node, and this is looking a little rough. So let's go ahead and choose my camera. And as we know, it's a red Komodo, and it's a log. There we go. Woo! All right, well, that's looking wrong. Why is that? Well, there's two reasons. So Filmconvert and programs like Dehancer are doing roughly the same thing. They are doing a two-step process where they are creating a film negative and a film print emulation transformation to put it into Rec. 709. Now with Dehancer, it's a little bit more obvious because they have separate panels to denote each step of the process. Like, I know they have a film neg here and like a film print emulation here. Now, I don't own Dehancer, so that is why I use Filmconvert, but they're doing exactly the same thing. It's just right here. So film color is in essence your film negative, and the Cineon to print film is that second panel where it transforms it to Rec. 709. So if we get rid of that, now that's looking a lot better. It's still a little overexposed, and that's the second thing that I need to address, and that is just a quick exposure drop that I did here, which is a -1. And now we're back to where we started. So yeah, that film color is actually pretty important. And that's the biggest difference between the Rec. 709 power grade that I created, is this film color. Because this is, yes, converting it to a Cineon ADX10 color profile, but it's also adding in a little sauce. So each one of these different film emulations do react differently. So there is a reason, that's a black and white one, that's why it looks crazy. So there is a reason to use the film color slider here. It adds color information that would be there if you had filmed on Viz 3. I stuck with the 5207 Viz 3 for a couple reasons. One, it's about the closest that you can get provided through Filmconvert, and also it added in the magentas into the skin which is very present in the ring. Then you get your grain through Filmconvert, and you get halation through Filmconvert. So yeah. And then just again, as a reminder, as listed on their website, they recommend that for an ASUS transform, you go into the ADX10 color format, and that will transform it into ASUS CCT. And then I have no color gamut compression at this juncture point. Okay, so now let's go to the group post clip. So now this is the print film emulation that I'm using. And this is just taking us out into Rec 709 Gamma 2.4 with ASUS reference gamut compression. All right, so what is this bad boy? This is a DCTL plugin called CineLook. This is an amazing DCTL from Raven Grade, which again is listed down below. Not an affiliate link. I just really love it. This does an ASUS to ASUS color. So if I take off this transform to Rec 709, there we go. We're in a log format that looks a little crazy. But you can see here what it's providing to the image. So there we go. Without, with, without, with. Between the vision and between this, it really came together. And I think it looks very ringy. Okay, so now we're on the clip level. And what am I doing here? So this is your warming filter and your green filter. They're just not in a compound node. That's it. Here is your corrections that you can make. This is your printer lights, linear gain, adjustments, all the same. And then here I was just doing some matting. This is covering up the largest zit in my adult life. This is just a vignette. And then I have another DCTL. This is a film density DCTL that is just helping bring those reds to be a little bit more filmy, gross, muddy. It's making it Scorsese red. I unfortunately forget where I got this from. I think it's from a YouTube channel. But the thing is, there's a few of these film density style DCTLs that are floating out there. And I don't want to misattribute, but I think I know which one it is. If I find it, I will link it down below as well. And then right here is our subtractive saturation again. All right, cool. So that is the more complex ASUS pipeline. I mean, the biggest difference is just using the Filmconvert at the beginning of the pipeline to get your grain, get your halation, and then also get this baked in color for your quote unquote film negative. Cool. I hope this was insightful. I hope you learned something. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I definitely, if I seem coherent, it's because I edited the living shit out of myself. So that was it. I hope I explained everything well. If not, please comment down below. Honestly, I might be a little bit better at explaining things via like text anyhow. If you enjoy the Power Grade, please like and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one, which will also not be a tech tutorial because I hate doing tutorials. Okay, bye.